wonderful session, we now move to the next one, which is The Secret Life of Debbie G by Vibha Batra and Kalyani Ganapathi. So we're looking forward to this conversation with the authors. I'd like to invite on the dais Professor D. Ipshita Chanda from English and Foreign Languages University, the young panelist welcome ma'am, the young panelist Ms Akrita, who is a student at the University of Hyderabad doing her integrated course in health psychology. And the session will be moderated by Sri Venkatesh Deshmukh, IPS retired, ex-DG Jharkhand 1986 batch. Welcome. I'd also like to invite Kalyani Ganapathi. Thank you, and over to the moderator.
Hello.
She is. Yeah. No, I did not see her. We had this empty chair.
Hello. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. We have. Yeah. Good afternoon, Vibha Batra ji. Can you hear us? Yeah. Welcome.
Yes, I can hear you. I hope everyone can hear me.
Good afternoon, Kalyani Ganapathi, if you're online. Okay. No. Only Vibha is there. She is Vibha. So, I would like to introduce the panelists here. Professor Dr Ipshita Chanda. She is a professor from the English Foreign Languages University, Hyderabad. And we have a young panelist, Akrita Singh. She is a keen reader. She is here with us. So I had gone through this book, the Vibha, The Secret Life of Debbie G. And I found that it had two streaks. It started with a note on single parenting, the attitude of children towards their parents entering into remarriages, how they think about each other, how the new relations start developing, how new siblings think about each other. But while I was going through this book, I thought that this book is all about the Western influence on India, and particularly about divorce, how single parents will deal with the situation, cope up, how remarriages will take place. But then all of a sudden there was a twist in the book. The twist came when, and that's where the secret life of Debbie G starts. It's all about actually social media posts which are now very viral, the anonymity which the social media provides to us, the way we think, where we cannot express openly, we try to do it indirectly or anonymously, without realizing that it may hurt someone. And in this case, this book deals that it hurt their own friends, this girl Saundarya. It hurts their own friends, their own colleagues. While some enjoyed it, but some got hurt in the process. And then that's the time when relations started crumbling, which she realizes, and then probably she starts with a new post, which she names it as "The Art Heals Hearts." So there are, again, when she starts with these two posts, again there are two important things which come to her mind. The first thing is, it's about, if I'm not wrong, Vibhaji, is it about obesity? Or how people think our bodies are? The first thing was, the idea is to be happy with whatever kind of body you have. The appearance do not matter. The most important thing which matters is to be happy. And while trolling and while doing the social media posts, she realizes that she has hurt a friend. Altogether new topics comes out, and that is about gay. That is about transgenders. And that's what, again, a new thing comes up, and that is, which I think is a very, very current and very recent topic, which everyone must be aware of. And here the message goes that the law has changed, but the mindset has not. People still, though the laws have changed regarding gay relationships, but the mindset of people have not changed. People still think that it is some kind of an unnatural thing. So I really appreciate that you have taken up these two important topics. I was myself obese, to be very frank, I was 105 kgs. And then also I was happy, and I've reduced a bit, and still I'm happy. The idea is to remain happy in whatever way you are. But the most important thing which I find is that we are a democratic country, and everyone has a right for expression. No matter how the situation is, whosoever may be at the helm of anything, we have all the rights to talk. So let us not be anonymous in our approach. At the same time, let us not hurt anyone with our Vani, that is our words. We are a pluralistic society, and we should be very careful when it comes to writing something on the social media, and which everyone now feels also and sees every day that it is creating problems, it is creating imbalances, it is creating social tensions. With these few things, I would request Dr. Chanda to please give her thoughts on the book.
Thank you. I think I can be heard, right? I mean, thank you very much, sir. As far as the plot is concerned, I think you said whatever, and its relevance to our current times. But the interesting thing is that, contrary to what sir just said, I decree an institution, an executive order, you must buy it and then you must like it. That doesn't happen with literature at all. So I should, ma'am is with us, and I would actually like to hear what Akrita says. But it would be nice if we can make this a conversation, because it is about children, not so young children anymore, children growing up and interacting with their parents. One thing which I very much appreciate that you said is that India is a plural society. Now, India is a plural society. I'm so glad that we noted that right at the beginning of this, because there are very many, and Vibhaji will correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the very interesting things I found in the book was not only, different kinds of children interacting with different, excuse my saying so, categories of parents. So, and I mean, what I missed, and perhaps for the next time, ma'am, different categories of children interacting with different categories of teachers, which we are very interested in. So what I'm trying to say actually is this secret life of Debbie G is the way we, whether old or young, live in a virtually, I would say, enabled, but sometimes it becomes a virtually threatened society. And this very important point that you just brought up, that we should have the courage not to be anonymous. We should have the courage to take responsibility for what we say. I think that's the most important message of the book, that we should have the courage to, take responsibility for what we say, but does not society have a responsibility to give us that kind of a secure environment where we are not threatened by being different, not threatened by being obese, and we can actually say what we want to say. And it has very telling and very deep consequences for the friendships and for the other relationships. And right through it is how young people and our students, our children, our future, how they deal with these things. I think it is, madam, for a parent and a teacher, I think it's a didactic book. It is something from which I have learned a lot, especially, just to put it lightly, this is all that, the book has made me focus on and think about. And there is one particular word which I have noted and brought, and which I would like to ask you, because I think it is part of the jargon that our students speak, our children speak, and I think I've spoken long enough. So Akrita, sir, with your permission.
Hello, Vibha. I am a 20-year-old college student, and I just finished my dean's last year. And your book, The Secret Life of Debbie G, was quite nostalgic for my end, because I just finished my dean's, and whatever Arya or Sondria went through was very similarly what I went through as well. And especially what you highlight, and I think that especially as a person who really likes movies as well, I've noticed a lot of those, movie references, like the Mean Girls, a lot of other different references, which was so relatable, which I could understand, and it was very refreshing to read it. And it felt like I was seeing my younger self story, and a lot of those issues, a lot of those things like LGBTQ community, the awareness towards body positivity, the influence of how important social media is to your self-worth. All of this were the common, the new problems for our, Gen Z, generation, which is coming. One thing I noticed about the main book is that Arya goes through a lot of, especially with her mother's divorce and then remarriage, and then also bullying at school, especially with her weight, with her stepsister, and also coping with all of that. What I interpret that she has taken creating this persona of The Secret Life of Debbie G as a coping mechanism to fight back against those, the people who bully her, and what is in a way of expressing herself. So what I wanted to ask you is that what kind of bullying you went through when you were a teenager, and how did you cope with it? And do you think that what Debbie G. Arya did to cope with this, and using Debbie G as a persona to get back at the bullies, do you think is justifiable?
So I'm going to begin with this huge thanks to all of you on the dais for actually reading the book, because no jokes, there were a couple of reviews, great reviews, so I'm not going to be cribbing or complaining, but they were literally filled with things that never happened in the book. So I'm just so glad you're giving an honest review after reading the book. Okay, and the second thing you asked, if I was bullied as a teen, well, I was bullied all through my childhood and teen for being overweight, and I was something called pleasantly plump. And as I discovered that there is no such thing as being pleasantly plump, because it can be an entirely unpleasant experience for the person who's at the receiving end. Moti, Motu, Amul Baby, Gundu Lollipop, these were just some of my nicknames. And what compounded the problem was every time I asked my parents, Mom, Dad, please be honest, tell me, if I need to lose weight, they would just say, don't mind us saying so, but you look kamzor. So, they would keep feeding me and I would be like, yeah, I'm fine. But it wasn't fine. And, then I grew up thinking maybe, I should go on a crash diet or I should look, socially acceptable. So when I was writing this book, I wanted to channel all that teenage angst. I wanted to write about, how I felt when I was growing up, and, there were well-intentioned relatives always telling me what was wrong with me. And I there were at that point, there were no role models, or no frames of reference, people I could look up to in mainstream culture and movies. Everyone looked a certain way, a certain size, and there was no one quite, very comfortable with their skin. Because I think that's something that started very recently, conversations around body positivity and body neutrality. So I'm just so grateful for that. And your second question was, whether whatever Arya did, was it justifiable? Absolutely not. Because that's not what the book is trying to say. What I'm trying to say is, there's always going to be talk around you and your appearance, but that's what's coming from outside. I wanted to talk to my readers about what we are telling ourselves. Is our self talk positive or negative? If we want to look a certain way, is it because we want to fit into popular cliques? Is it because, we want to feel good about ourselves? Or is it because we're just trying to impress people, we are really better off not impressing or caring about, for that matter? So I do hope this answers your question.
Yeah, I want to ask you a question. How do you how do you treat body positivity? How do you, can you hear now? How do you treat body positivity? Now you have dealt body positivity in terms of looks only, I think. But there is altogether another angle which the children or the young age people need to know, particularly in terms of obesity, particularly about obesity, that is the health issue, the medical issue. Somewhere you need to fine tune or balance these two things, the looks as well as the medical aspect of body positivity.
Okay, so okay, I think um, how media portrays, a certain way to be, a certain appearance, a certain shape or size to be, idealistic, perfect. And it drives home these messages, that we should aspire to look that way. And if we don't, maybe, we don't look all that good. And when this is coupled with, what society is telling us, people who are close to us, our so-called friends or well-intentioned relatives, we tend to internalize that and start thinking that maybe, yes, there is something wrong with us and we need to change that aspect. But, I think where health comes in, you can be a certain size and be fit. You can look a certain way and, feel good about yourself. So it's just what we put inside our minds and in our bodies, because if we eat healthy, if we sleep on time, it just gives us everything we need to, go after our goals. So it's not just about pleasing others or impressing people around us and, trying to win this game of one-upmanship. Sorry, I can't hear anymore.
What went through your mind when you took up the second issue in your book?
Sorry, I missed the first part
That's
of the
about
question.
that's about the second issue. Nothing. That's about the law changed. The laws have changed. Now the mindset has to change. Nothing is unnatural about love.
Okay.
How did
So I
you
just want to.
come up with that subject in your book?
Okay, so I just feel that more than being a pluralistic society, we should be a humane society. It's very easy to other a person. It's very easy to talk about people as if they are different from us. People like us, people like them, but we are all the same. We are all going through this. We are having this human experience. Spiritual beings having a human experience, and it's very important that we treat each other with compassion and empathy. So I wanted to write about that. How I write about my stories, I really don't know. It's something, I keep asking myself. It's just that, sometimes characters just, stroll into my head and they demand that they be written about, like it happened for Arya/Saundarya.
So, I actually want to give you a compliment about the book you have written. Is that when I was actually reading it the second time, I actually found it even more amusing. Like the boredom that comes once you have read a book, you kind of don't want to read it again because you know the plot, you know everything. But I kind of see it as a very relatable, a kind of a relatable book where you can reread again. And as if I were a teenager, like, probably a few years ago, I would be able to, enjoy it and take it as, uh, how to say, a little like a kind of like a, stress reliever to like understand, oh, somebody else is also going through what I'm going through. And I would definitely say it's kind of like, how in Friends you can watch the show again and again and never get bored. I found your book to be like that, so I think that's the compliment I would like to give, that your book is so interesting to read again and again. And another question I had is that we talked about how do I say, different issues like LGBTQ community and the acceptance. Even we talked about, even in the acceptance in India, how there's so much stigma regarding it. And her friend, like Arya's friend, Nick gets criticized for being that. And so, what were there any like, what is your thoughts on the current situation of LGBTQ representation, and how do you think that we can positively take it without even bring it into a negative light, which is not supposed to be?
Okay, thank you so much for reading and rereading my book. Really, you are a dream reader for me. And thank you for making my children's day very happy and positive. Okay, and the second thing, okay, I just feel that, we need to treat each other equally. And I think there is a stigma around everything in our country. Divorce stigma. If you don't have children within the first 2 years of your life, stigma. Two kids, God forbid, daughters, definite stigma. Too many kids, oh my God, don't even ask about the stigma. So where does it end? So, I think we all need to just look inward. I don't mean to sound preachy. It's just that, where is this all coming from? There is no such thing as perfection. I just read this definition of this Loch Ness monster. It's perfection is like a Loch Ness monster. Everybody talks about it, but nobody's really seen it. So there is no such thing as a perfect life. Maybe we are all, broken or dysfunctional or weird or different in our own ways. So this, desire or attempt to, lump people into one category and, minoritize the others, I think it's ridiculous, and it's dangerous. And I think it just change starts with each one of us. So how do we treat, our fellow human being? Do we treat them with respect, regardless of their caste, or or the way they look? So it begins with us. And even before that, how do we treat ourselves? Because when I was writing this book, I just kept thinking that when we are in KG, we are taught to say please, thank you, sorry, excuse me to everyone around, but we are never really taught to love ourselves. But can we really love another person if we don't treat ourselves properly, if we don't forgive ourselves, if we don't take good care of ourselves? So that's what the book deals with. It's Arya/Debbie. She makes a huge mistake. She hurts the people closest to her, and she feels as if she's committed a sin and she cannot forgive herself. But the whole point I'm trying to make is that we are human, we are going to make mistakes, but we need to learn and move on, and we need to be kind to ourselves and forgive ourselves. So self-love is a lot about self-care and forgiveness, forgiving ourselves.
Thank you. Uh, I actually wanted not to talk so much about Debbie G, which I think is a very interesting and a fun name. That was one of the first things, like Debbie can be so many things. It can be anything from Devrupa to Devdatta to Debu to Debashish, as you say later on. And so the first thing that struck me was why she called Debbie G. And that, I think, is the biggest suspense in the whole thing, because later we find out that her name is Saundarya, and she thinks that looks like, an oversexed 90s dancer in a Hindi film. And she wants to be called Arya. So I cannot imagine how far away Debbie G is from Saundarya, so perhaps that was the reason. But actually, I mean, what really sort of engaged me a lot, two things. One is the fact that there are so many pressures that young people live with. Let us just talk about young people, because older people, I think by the time they get old, are more or less used to living with that. They know no better and can think no different. But the kind of pressure that we put on young people, when we are taught to say please, thank you and sorry, these are elders who are teaching us please, thank you and sorry, in the hope that they will stand us in good stead in the rest of our lives. And they were elders who were feeding you, thinking ki naari bichari kamzor lag rahi hai, And we are also taught to say you cannot say no to people who are older than you. You need to obey. You need to listen to what they are saying, regardless of whether they know the first thing about what you are doing or not. So I'd like you to talk a little bit about not Debbie G, but her surroundings. Not the youngsters who, are involved with her, but the shadow society. We always say society does this. Unfortunately, society sometimes consists of the people closest to us, who say, do this, otherwise I will feel bad. Or we think, we've been taught like that. Do this, otherwise, mummy or daddy or bhaiya or bhabhi or somebody is going to feel bad. So I think loving ourselves is a very, it's a noble goal, but it's a very risky proposition in a society which is, well, really so ageist as ours is, so that you are clubbed together with a particular age group. And I mean, we know better because we are older and we've been in the world for longer. So I'd like to talk a little, I'd like you to talk a little about that part of the book, because like I said, for a person my age, it is quite didactic. I've learned a lot, including that new word, which I will ask you at the end, but please, if you could.
So, okay, I know I've said this again, but best bunch of readers, all three of you. So I'll just answer the first question. So why Debbie G? So, this scene didn't really make it into the book, but there's a backstory. So Arya's just trying to come up with a name for a comic strip. And, the TV is on in the background, and there's a reporter, and he's got a mic, and he's thrusting it under the nose of some unsuspecting bystander and saying, Devi ji, Devi ji, Devi ji. And Devi ji, sound bite. And something just clicks in her head and she comes up with Devi ji. So the G doesn't stand for anything, it's just Devi ji. So that's how it became Devi ji. And the second thing, yes, absolutely. I love how you said, loving yourself is a very risky proposition. But I just want to say it's a proposition worth taking, because, life experiences, positive or negative people around you, they have this way of trying to just grind you down. But if you're solidly moved into something that really means a lot to you, your self belief, your how you feel about yourself, how much confidence and faith you put in yourself, I don't think you can go wrong. Because even if your faith is shaken and you feel very disillusioned in everything that's happening around you, but if you have that solid anchor in yourself, in what you bring to the table, thanks to all these experiences you've had that going to shaping you and making you the person that you are today, I think you're on a good track. And then you said about elders. Yes, we are told that we should respect elders, and I just want to add, yes, we should respect elders, but respect is a two-way street. We, regardless of our age or anyone's age, and I keep saying we because I think of myself as a young adult, so we need to be respected back. It no longer works that way. And if people think it's working, it's probably very superficial. People might be acting out and pretending that yeah, they're giving you respect, but unless that respect is reciprocated, I don't think it really works, not for too long. And there was one other point that you made about the people around Arya. So absolutely, I think you were bang on, because Tata, Party, everyone expects her to toe the line, to act all goody goody and dress a certain way and not embarrass them publicly by speaking her mind, and be sweet and coy and simper, even when there was this fire raging within her. But I think what she was trying to do was be her authentic self. So I think that's very important, because people will want you to say what they want to hear, and you can do that, but you can do that very briefly, because as it happens to Debbie, it just blows up in her face. She can't do that anymore. She has to be true to herself.
So, Vibha, I actually, how do I say, read a little bit about you, and I came to know that you were a fellow Punjabi person living at Kolkata, and then you lived in Chennai for most part of your life. And there was this, how do I say, difference in the culture at home and culture outside, and the dynamics to how you cope with during your adolescence. And I personally also kind of related, especially with the book, because I myself am a fellow Punjabi and I also lived in Hyderabad for all of my life. And the dynamics of having two different cultures, one at home and the one outside, but definitely makes us to become more appreciative of different cultures. I wanted to ask you that in this book, how did you channelize your personal dynamics with this aspects of culture into the book, into the character of Arya? And
Okay. So, okay, Panju, high five right there. Okay, so, but here's the thing, I don't really think of myself as just a Panju. I also think of myself as a Bengali, because, born and raised in Kolkata. And I have lived so many years in Chennai, so definitely a Chennaiite. And then my ancestors were from Jammu, so a bit of that. And then there was the other side, they were from Banaras, so a UPite as well. So how did I channel
Word.
that into?
Chennai seems to be a new word. I thought you'll say Madrasan.
Oh my God, never, never. I'll always say Chennai Vasi or Chennaiite. Because, Madrasi is everyone, south of the Vindhyas.
Down south, everyone is Madrasi. That
Yeah.
aspect also you've taken in your book, which we really liked.
And, she says 5 states. Debbie tells this person, and this person is like 5 states. Arya can see that confusion in her head. She's like, I could have sworn there were just 4. So, yeah. So I've tried to channel all that, you know, real life experiences and, characters I've met. And yes, they were actually characters and, things I've heard. So I've just tried to put that in the book, and, I've tried to make it non preachy, and I hope I've succeeded.
Do we have time?
Another 5 minutes. She has to leave at 4:30.
Yeah, I think Madam Chanda will give the final words. After that, you will please say a few words to end it.
Okay, so we'll all say some little bits of things. Okay, thank you. So, no, one thing which we sort of did not speak about, but which is very much there in the book, this whole business about the North and the South. But, this whole, again, the whole business of a culture which is not our own, that is not true really. Because the culture inside our homes and the culture outside our homes do not have any boundaries between them. So wherever we were in India, and I think that when you said we need, a humane society, I think a plural society actually teaches us to be humane, because we are always in contact with difference. We have to engage with difference. We can't have conflict with difference if we have to survive. Yeah, we are all in a plural society 24/7, Akrita, that is what, and it's going to continue in the future, we hope. So, yeah.
You have a word. You said a word.
A word, yeah. A word which both of us, Deshmukh sir and I, want to ask. Neither of us can pronounce it, but no. We wanted to ask you what Schadenfreude means. SCHADEN. FRAUDE.
So may I just explain it with an example? Okay, you see someone who's walking right ahead of you slip on a banana peel. That's exactly what the word means. Oh, thank God it didn't happen to me. Yeah. You may laugh, you may giggle. Actually, it's just self-preservation, like, oh my God, that could have been me. So that's Schadenfreude. I thought you were going to ask Jillian or, one of those companions.
So, one thing I noticed about after reading the book was that Arya actually, just like any teenage, actually goes through, does a couple of mistakes, uses the platform, The Secret Life of Debbie G, to fight against the bullies. Maybe it may not be, correct in a certain sense, but in the end, she comes to use the platform, the online platform, for a better, positive influence and a better cause. We would say to promote, body positivity, acceptance towards LGBTQ community. So what I've taken from the book is that the road not just of teenage, from child to adulthood, is the fact that you make multiple mistakes, but the more important is to learn from them. And so what I've learned being a 20-year-old is that you will continue to make mistakes and you don't stop at all. And you keep making mistakes and you keep, feeling bad about them. But the most important thing at the end of the day is to actually learn from them and, better yourself, improve yourself. And so what I wanted to ask is, what do you want those fellow teenagers, who are, reading the book for the first time, what did you want them to take from that book after they read it?
Okay, if it could just be 2 words, I would want my fellow teens, whether they're actually teenagers or just in their head like me, love yourself. That's what I would like to tell them. Because it's very easy to not love yourself and be filled with self-loathing. Life will give you plenty of opportunities, sometimes several in a day. But you have to come back home to yourself. You have to have that regard for yourself. That's all.
So, would you like to say something more, Vibhaji?
Okay, can I just, yes, please, could I just be the poetry geek and just end with a short Bengali poem by Rabindranath Tagore?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, so it goes, পুরানো আবাস ছেড়ে যায় জবে, মনে ভেবে মরি কি জানে কি হবে, নতুনের মাঝে তুমি পুরাতন, সে কথা যে ভুলে যায়, দূরকে করিলে নিকট বন্ধু, পরকে করিলে ভাই. And it means every time we step out of a comfort zone, it could be in terms of a job or a place or a new move, we die inside thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen? But we tend to forget that amidst the new, we are eternal, we are the constant, we are the unchanging. If only we could reach out and make friends and brothers out of strangers. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Vibhaji. And thank you, Vibhaji and Kalyani ji both, for the wonderful pictographic book. We enjoyed reading it and hope many more people around the country will get to read this book. From my side, I again want to say it has a social message, a very good message for people to take with them. It has an idea. It's just not a literary piece of work. It has an idea with it, and we appreciate that. Thank you so much. And I thank my co-panelists, Mrs. Chanda and Akriti, for being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. With that, we come to the end of this wonderful, engaging another session. And I'd like to invite